Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Roofs webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, you can go ahead and type those into the questions and answers section, and at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that's going to cover everything that we're going to talk about in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, you can reach out to our support department. We are open Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be happy to help you out. Again, today's class is on roofs. And we're going to be going through the Envisioneer catalog to take a look at the wide variety of roof types that are included in the program. We're then going to be looking at how to insert a roof at a uniform plate height to match the location settings that we've chosen. Once that roof has been inserted, you can edit each of the support segments to create virtually any configuration. We're going to be looking at how to insert a roof. We're going to be looking at how to convert a roof to gables. We're going to be adjusting some plate heights on our roof, and we're also going to be adding in some dormers. So first, let's take a look at inserting a roof. There are two main roof tools in Envisioneer. There is the roof by perimeter and the roof by picking points option. When you use the roof by perimeter tool, a roof is going to be automatically placed over the perimeter walls on a selected building location. The walls and the roof become a cohesive unit that move and interact together. When you use the roof by picking points tool, you can freely pick points to define the outline of the roof anywhere you want. Each method is suited to a different purpose and has its own advantages. The method you choose depends on where the roof structure will lie in relation to your model's walls. So let's do a roof by picking points option. I want to show you how that would work, and then we're going to do a roof again, but we're going to use the roof by perimeter option. So let's say in our example that we have open up on my screen, I want to add in a roof, and it's going to follow the basic shape of the design, but I want it to extend out in certain areas. So what I would do is I would again go up, I would select my roofs option, and I would select roof by picking points. In the catalog, I would select the roof type that I want to bring in. So are we bringing in a 612, a 412, an 812? You get to choose the type of roof slope that you want for the design you're currently working on. We're just going to use a 612 slope. I'm going to bring my mouse in, and I'm going to snap to the center of a wall. So I'm just going to snap to the center of this wall right here. I'm going to go 1, and then I'm just going to trace around the design. And I'm just going to pick in the center of the wall. Now I'm picking in the center of the wall because I want it to have something to snap to. And by default, when Envisioneer snaps to the center, it will automatically move the roof edges to the exterior core of the wall. So again, we're snapping to the center of the core. Now I want this to be a covered porch out on this side. So I don't want to follow the shape here. And this is why I'm using the roof by picking points tool. But I can also use what we call snap track. So as soon as I highlight over that point, it's going to snap to that point right there. And I'm just going to left click and place that in. And then we're just going to continue around. And we're going to do that one more time right here. And we're just going to create a roof that looks like this. Again, it's a self-enclosed polyline, so we don't need to select the first point. We can simply right click and select finish. If at any point you've selected the wrong spot, while doing this, you can right click and you can select step back, and it will allow you to step all the way back to the very first point you created. We're going to say finish. And that adds in the roof, and it basically just follows the edges that we've chosen. And if you look, you can see that the edge of the roof is now snapped to the exterior veneer. Even though the grip is in the middle of the wall, it knows as that's the center of the wall, and it's going to move the supports of the roof to the core edge. And that's how you can use the roof by picking points tool. Depending on the complexity of the roof you're adding in, You could simply just select the roof by perimeter option. Again, select the roof slope that you want, bring your mouse into the drawing area, and as soon as you bring your cursor into the middle of your design, as long as you have a self-enclosed group of walls, it is going to highlight in blue. If any one of those walls is not connected properly, it will not find an enclosed perimeter to add the roof around, so it will not add any roof. So again, you want to make sure that the walls are all enclosed to create a perimeter circuit of walls. Once you're in the middle of your design, simply left click once, and it will automatically create the roof for you. Now, I did roof by picking points on the last one to show you that you could pick the points to create the shape that you want, but you can very easily manipulate that exact same roof to achieve the same result. I could easily just take this edge of the roof and say, well, you need to snap to the center over here, and then you just need to move to the center here. And it gives me the exact same roof, but just moving a couple of points. So depending on how much editing you have to do to the roof itself, you may want to just use roof by perimeter and then adjust it. Or if there is going to be a lot of editing that needs to be done, then you may just want to use the roof by picking points tool. And I'm just going to go Control Z to bring that back to the original shape. So we now have a 612 slope over top of our walls based off of the perimeter that we've drawn in. What we're going to do now is we're going to modify this roof. So with the roof already inserted, what we can now do is we can select any one of the edges. Once we select a roof, the entire roof is now selected and a number of different grips and markers are going to appear on that roof. General editing tools like move and rotate will affect the roof as a whole. By clicking and dragging the solid blue grips at the center of each edge, you can move an edge to effectively stretch the roof. By clicking and dragging the hollow blue grips at the corners, you can stretch the corners of the roof to reshape it. The red and green arrows are going to be your surface markers. The green arrow indicates that the currently selected surface is the one that you're going to be editing. Changes to most properties, such as the roof type, the slope, and the overhang distance, affect only the currently selected surface, which is again marked by the green arrow. You can make additional surfaces current by simply clicking on the red arrows to change them to green. This lets you apply changes to multiple surfaces simultaneously. And you don't need to select each edge. You don't need to hold the shift key down and select each edge. You can just simply select the arrows and they will turn green. If you reselect them, they will turn red, and that means it is deselected. So in our plan, we're going to convert some of our roof edges into gable ends. So let's take a look at converting a hip to a gable. We're going to click on the left vertical overhang. We want that wall there, or sorry, that roof edge there. And then we're going to go through and we're going to adjust the roof in a couple of different areas. So let's say we want this edge, and this edge to all be gable ends in our design. What we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to go to properties. When you bring up the roof properties, you're going to see the roof properties dialog box display. And again, while we're in our document, whenever we select an element, you're going to see in brackets the word document. This again just lets you know that you are editing the element in the document, and it is only going to be a change in the document itself. It is not going to be a permanent change in the catalog. So you are free to make any edits that you want to in the document itself. In this roofs dialog box, we can see that there are a number of tabs and there are a number of different commands and controls that we can adjust. The first being under the basic tab is the roof shape. Now the roof shape is an actual button. So if I put my cursor over it and I left click, it will bring up the roof shape option. And in here, I can choose a different roof shape. I can keep it a hip, I can change it to a gable, a mansard, a Dutch hip, a double slope, arched, bullnose, or I can create a custom edge. We're just going to use a gable end here. So we're going to say gable. Once I select gable, the parameters are going to adjust. This is because I only need to control the certain parameters for that gable end. And in this case, I can control the overhang, the vertical distance, and I can also adjust if I want to display a gable. I'm going to leave that set to none right now. I'm going to leave the overhang at 1'4", and I'm going to go over and I'm going to select the Support and Details tab. Now, on the Support and Details tab, this is where we can adjust certain variables. We can go in and we can say, do we want to adjust where the plates are going to sit in our design? And I can adjust if I want that to be higher or lower. Do I want to adjust the fascia thickness? Do I want to adjust the soffit? And do I want to adjust the gable type? In this case, do I want it to be a plane type, a squared type with an actual horizontal distance, a half hip, which will give me a horizontal distance as well as a depth, or a full hip, which will again give me a horizontal distance and a depth. I'm going to make mine a half hip, and I'm just going to extend this over 2'6". Now this horizontal distance is going to be including the overhang. So if you want this to sit a set distance on the wall, then you're going to want to make sure you include the width of the soffit as well as the width of the overhang as well as how far on the wall you want this gable end return to be. So we're going to set it to be 2'6". You can apply a depth, which will protrude it out from the edge of the fascia. I'm going to leave mine at 0. Then we have an Appearance tab. And on the Appearance tab, this is what controls the appearance of the roof. So you can see here, roof surface is set to be a shingle 7. But you're also going to see that there is a gable end option. So if we go back to the Basic tab, if I look at Display Gable, it's set to none right now. I have my walls on the ground floor auto extending up to meet my roof. So I don't need to display a gable in here. But if I wanted to, I could set my walls to be level, and then I could say I want to display a gable using a surface. And whatever material you have applied in here will fill in the gable end with that surface. So if I want my walls, and in this case, the walls in my drawing are a 2x6 brick veneer wall, but I want my gable ends to be either a shake siding or just a siding material, I could change that material in here. I will lose the framing behind that wall, but I'm going to see the surface in there. If I want to show an actual framing option in there, so I'm doing a platform frame gable end, I would change this display gable from a surface to a wall. And I can then define the wall that I want to use. And this is where I would use the wall type with the veneer that I want. So this will show the framing as well as the veneer option that I want in that gable end. In this case, I'm just going to grab a 2x6 cement board siding. Let's go cement board veneer, and we'll say OK. And what that will again do is it will just add in that wall in that gable end. Under the Line Work tab, this is where you can control how the roof is going to look in a 2D plan view, as well as how you want the lines to be represented. So we can see that it's going to have a hatch pattern assigned with a shingled roof, and it's going to be in a dash dot line style. And if you click on roofs elevation, this is going to be a solid line. But if I click on the 2D plan view, I can see it goes to roofs. And when I look at the layer for roofs, it is dashed. And if you scroll down, you can see roof elevation is continuous. So when I insert an elevation view of this, I want the lines to be a continuous line style. But when I insert it as a plan view, I want it to be a dashed line style. So this is where you can control not only the color, but the line weight, the line weight and the line type. And then the Quantity tab. Now the Quantity tab is where you're going to go when you want to get any kind of quantitative data from the element you're inserting, and in this case, our roof. So here you can adjust how the roof is going to be quantified in your design. You can adjust the assemblies to match what you would typically use for a roof of this type. And you can edit not only the parts that make up that roof, but you can also adjust the formulas to help you accurately calculate the materials for that type of roof. I'm just going to say OK. And that's going to change all of my gable ends to be gables. Now, what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to, that's kind of odd, select all similar. I must have adjusted this wall. So let's go back into properties. Oh, I did the veneer, that's why. And we're going to go cancel. We're going to go replace. I grabbed the wrong wall. We want cement board panel. That's the wall I want. There we go. So now what I want to do is I want to select the walls on the gable end. So these are the brick walls that are below my gable. And I'm going to go into a 3D view so you can see why. So if I go into a 3D view, I can see that the brick veneer wall is extruding all the way up to the top. So I'm just going to go edit, select previous, right click properties, and I'm going to change the roof, or sorry, the wall from top and bottom. I'm going to say I want that to be level. And I'm going to say OK. And now I will see the siding that I have added in for that gable end. And I'm going to select all similar for my gable end walls. And I'm going to go into the properties. And I can adjust, again, the certain parameters for that wall. So if I want to change the way the material looks, if I want to change the top and bottom, and I'm just going to change this to be 6 inches so it extrudes up just a little bit closer to the roof. I can also apply trim to the exterior. So if I want to cap off the bottom with a nice piece of trim, I can say on the exterior surface, I want to apply a base board to the bottom of the wall on the exterior side. And I'm just going to make that, let's go exterior. Let's just go we'll make it bigger. We'll go 1x6 PVC trim and we'll say OK. And that just adds in that trim on the bottom. Again, under the appearance, I can change the type of material that's going to be used for that gable end. And we're just going to say OK. And what you're now going to see, and if I put this into a rendered outline view, is you'll now see that gable end with the materials that we've chosen. And it just helps clean up those edges. I'm going to go back into 2D. Actually, let's go back into 3D for just a moment here. I did forget to show. So now when we look at this in a framed view, what we're going to see is a true platform frame. So we're going to see the top plate and the very top plate, and then we're going to see the framed wall above that. And then if we go back into display all but framing, let's go back into 2D, and let's take a wall and let's adjust the actual plate heights of our wall. So let's go in and let's see which side should we adjust. So let's adjust this one right here. So we're going to take this edge and this edge, and we're going to make some adjustments to it. So we're going to go in. So with these two arrows selected, that is the only currently selected edges of our roof. We're going to right click and we're going to go into the properties. Now in the properties, we've already converted this roof to be a gable, and I wanted it to follow the same shape all the way around. So I want all the gable ends to have the same wall in the gable end, and I want all of the gable ends to have the same trim and the same behavior, so it extrudes up to 6 inches below the roof. But on this side, I want to change the plate height. So what I would do is I would then make all of my adjustments like I did, select the edges that I do want to adjust, and then in the support and details, I would adjust this to be 9 foot 1 1/8. And I can say OK. And what that will do is it will raise up just that one edge of the roof. And we're going to change that just a bit here. So edit, undo, select these edges. And let's go again, properties, support and details. Let's just go up 9 feet. I think we were extruding it past its limit, so it was cutting out the rest of the roof there. So we we're going up just a little bit too high. So we'll make that 9 feet. So as you can see, that breaks the roof up and it extends this piece over just a bit more. And if we go into a 3D view, if I pull the camera around to that side, we can see that the edge of that roof is now higher than the rest of the roof. Now the walls themselves, we may need to adjust those because that's going to be set to the 8'1" 1/8". So if I want these walls to be a little bit taller, I will need to adjust these walls so that their properties match. So in the properties, we would say top and bottom, this should be 9'1" 1/8". Actually, we'll just say 9 foot. And then this wall, we're going to elevate it up, and this is going to be 9 feet. And then that will give us the same look all the way around our design. And that's how you can adjust the support heights of your roofs as well. I'm going to go back into 2D, and we're going to add in a couple of dormers onto our roof. So dormers are a small structure that projects from a roof shape. A typical dormer consists of a roof and 3 walls. The most common type of dormer is the gable dormer, characterized by the front gable end in a roof. We're going to insert the dormers on our design, and we're going to use the dormer roof tool to do that. So let's add a dormer on this edge of our roof. So we're going to go up, and under our roofs tool, we're going to select the dormer roof. Under the dormer roof, we're going to adjust some of the properties. So I'm going to keep it at 5 feet. I want the dormer roof to be the same slope as my main roof, so that's going to be a 612 slope, not a 412 slope. I do want a gable end, so I'm going to keep the gable front selected. I'm going to include the walls, but I want the walls to be the same material that I'm using for the gable ends. And I want that to just be the cement board panel, not the veneer. Yeah, cement board panel. And then we can say, okay. I'll keep it at 3 feet. This is going to be the height from the bottom of the wall to the support of the roof itself. So we want that to be 3 feet. We're going to say, okay. I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to kind of snap this in so that it snaps on top of my wall, like so. Now we can see that that's a little bit too tall, so we are going to need to make some adjustments to this particular dormer roof. Once this dormer roof is actually added in, we can start to manipulate it. So I can take the walls themselves and I can move them in so that they snap where I want. And if I want this to sit more in line with the edge of the wall, I can move that over. I can also go in and select the edges and right-click properties, and we can change the support height. And so here we're going to go down to, let's just go 10 foot 6 inches. And that will reduce how far it's going to project back. Now I can again adjust the properties. If I wanted to go up just a little bit higher, we can say, well, let's go up to 11 feet. That looks a bit better. Now, when I make these edits, if I go into a 3D view, we can see how that dormer roof is taking shape on our design. And we can zoom in and zoom out so we can see exactly what's happening. But you can also see that there's a bit of a wall sticking up right here. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can see it right there. And you can also see that the cutout is way far back in that roof. Well, I've moved this roof around, so I need to make some more adjustments. Right here is what we call a invisible wall line. And if I go in and I just use my cycle select to cycle through, I can see that I can select that object. And when I stretch this object back, and I'm just going to stretch this guy back, let's do edit, undo. We'll stretch this back again. I'm going to go right click move, and I'm just going to left click once, and I'm going to move this back 9 inches. That's going to move that wall back 9 inches. And that's essentially what I lowered the roof by as well. So I'm just kind of moving everything around based off of the values that I've been manipulating. And what you're going to see here is the original cutout of the roof. Now, the only way to fix this is to actually select the main roof, right click, and you can update the roof. So just click update roof, and it will update the roof and it will heal any portions that need to be fixed. And then in your 3D perspective view, when we go back, we are no longer seeing the edge of the wall. And when I bring this guy in just a little bit, we can see that the cutout is now completely under the main roof itself. And that's how you can add in your dormer roofs. Another dormer type is a flush dormer. You can create a gable of any fascia edge by inserting 2 breakpoints to create a new surface. Then changing the shape of the roof then changing the shape of the new surface to a gable. What we're going to do is I'm going to start a new drawing to do this. So I'm going to go up to File, New, and we're just going to start a new drawing. And in this new drawing, I'm just going to drop in a rectangular shape building here. So I'm just going to go up to walls, and we're just going to grab the cement board panel, and we're just going to create a rectangle. I'm going to insert a roof by perimeter, and I'm going to use the 812 slope, and I'm just going to drop that roof in. So I've created a hip roof, but off the front, I want it to be a flush gable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use L for line to start. That's going to give me the ability to create a construction line. I'm going to drop that in from the center of the wall. I'm going to drop that first line. It doesn't matter how far down I go. That's just the center marker. Now I can determine how wide I want this dormer to be, and I'm going to divide that by 2. So if I want this to be a 6-foot dormer, I'm going to go over 3 feet. And then I'm going to say repeat, and I'm going to go over 3 feet this direction. I can then select the roof, right click, break, and I can break the roof on those 2 points. I can then delete my construction lines out, and what I've essentially created is a edge that has 3 surface arrows. Of those 3 surface arrows, I only want that middle section selected. So I'm just going to deselect the other 2, and then I'm going to turn this one into a gable. I'm going to go right click, properties, and I'm going to convert it from a hip to a gable, and I'm going to say okay. And what that will do is it will create a dormer, a flush dormer on that edge of the roof. Because of the slope value, that will allow this to work. If I did this with a 612 slope, it would not work in the same way. So I believe it has something to do with the slope values that you're working with. If you do this with a 612 slope, so let's try it. And I do the same thing again, and we're just going to do this winging it. We're going to go in and say break. We'll break there, and we'll break there. And I want this middle portion to be a dormer. So I change this one to be a gable. You can see that it didn't actually create the edges. And the reason it didn't is it has to do with the way that the perpendicular fascia boards line up and the slope of the roof. So if I want this to be on a 612 slope, you can still do it. You would just simply need to stretch this edge out just a little bit further than the rest of the roof, and that will give you the dormer edge. It's essentially creating a perpendicular fascia board, which is what this type of roof will need at this slope. Now you may be saying, okay, well, I don't want it to project out. I want it to be flush. Well, once you've moved it around, you can actually convert any roof to surfaces. So I can say I want to convert this roof to surfaces, and I want this to be a asphalt shingle roof surface. I'm going to say okay. What I have now done is I've basically just taken this and I've broken it up into individual surfaces. I can then just simply take this edge and stretch it back so that it snaps to there. Sorry, that was the wrong edge, I do believe. So let's go edit, undo. We are taking this edge here and snapping it to there. Edit, undo. Okay. Control Z. Something is not happy there. So let's stretch this guy out even further and let's convert this to surfaces. So asphalt shingle. Now I can take that edge to there, and I can take this edge to here. And what that does, it's now made that a flush gable in that area. And we're going to see the same effect, but with the flush gable with a 612 slope. So again, depending on the slope value, if it's going to be lower than an 812, you probably will need to use the surfaces command to create the flush gable. Once it is a surface, you can just manipulate the edges to match exactly what you want and where you want that flush gable to go. Once a roof is converted to surfaces, there are some new commands that are available for that roof. So right now it's broken up into its individual surfaces. And underneath the surfaces, you're going to see a roof edge type editor. And the roof edge type editor controls what the edges of each roof are going to be. So in this case, we can see that some of these are highlighted with different colors. Over on the right-hand side, we have a legend that lets you know what each color represents. Well, we know that the blue ones are our fascias, and that's exactly what we want. All of these should be a fascia. If I click on fascia, I can manipulate the fascia edge. So I can add other information to this if I want to. So the fascia depth, I can edit, or I can just adopt the properties. So if I use this little eyedropper, I can adopt the properties, and it pulls up what the information is for that particular fascia. And I can say that's the one I want, and I can now apply that to all of the other fascias. I can do the same for the gable end. I want that gable end information. So that one's using a overhang soffit width of 1 foot 4 inches. Well, I want that to be the same for this one. That should be a gable end too. This one, so green is going to be my hips, and yellow is going to be my hips, and green is going to be my valleys. Well, this is going to be a valley, and this is going to be a hip. So that one's perfect. So that one's a hip. This is a valley. This is a valley. This should be set to none. So we're going to make this one none. This is a ridge, and this is a ridge. So those are perfect. And you may be asking, well, why are these set to none? Well, because we have two surfaces coming together, if we had this set to a hip, and this set to a hip, and this set to a ridge, and this set to a ridge, when it went into the quantities, it would see double ridges and double hips at every intersection. We don't want that. We only want one edge to define what the material is that is going to be needed at each edge. So we're saying this surface right here is going to control the ridge and the hip for one edge. This edge or this surface is going to control both the hip edges, and then it's also going to control just the hip edge on this one, and this one's not controlling any of the edges. So it's actually just going to calculate the 4 hip edges for us, and then the 2 ridges. Once you're happy with all of that, all you have to simply do is say right click and finish, and all of your adjustments will be saved. And that roof will now show as you intend it to look. I'm just going to go back into 2D, and that's going to cover everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class about roofs. So I'm going to open up the questions and answers section. So please, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in. I'm just going to go over a quick review of what we've covered in today's class. So there are different ways of inserting a roof in Envisioneer, and the method you choose depends on where the roof will sit in relation to the exterior walls. Roofs can be customized to achieve virtually any style or configuration that is desired. You can use the Roofs by Perimeter tool to automatically insert a roof over the perimeter walls on a selected building location. The roof is going to be connected to the walls, so if you change the wall layout, the roofs will also change with it. You can also use the Roof by Picking Points tool to create a roof of a custom size and shape. This method is ideal for veranda or shed roofs. General editing tools like Move and Rotate apply to the entire roof itself. You can use the grips on a roof's corner and edges to resize and reshape the roof as needed. Each roof segment can be edited individually. By editing the properties of the different segments, you can create a roof with multiple pitches, plate heights, and styles. Using the dormer tool will allow you to insert a dormer on an existing roof surface. And to create a gabled portion in the middle of a fascia, you can break the roof edges at 2 points to create a new roof segment. Then select the new segment and change it to be a gable and style. For any roofs that need further editing than what you can control with the parametric roof, you can convert your roof as edges into surfaces to manipulate them. So I'm going to open up the question section, see if anybody has any questions. At this point, I'm not seeing any. So again, I'm just going to pause there for a moment to see if anybody has any questions. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I'm also going to be sending out an email that will have the documents included. So you can try this out on your own. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, please feel free. You can contact our support department, and they'll be happy to help you with any questions you may have. Perfect. Well, I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.